with spirit of matter. Here with descendant ruled by Jupiter, with Jupiter in the 6th house, 9 degrees Taurus. Sun and Moon into 12th, Sun and Mars into 12th in Scorpio. They were in the first, but God wanted it that way. Okay, so this is a Mars day, Sol hour, with the Moon here in the 10th house in Virgo, 4 degrees Virgo. Midheaven ruled by Mercury, which is also in 25 degrees Scorpio. Mercury is now where the Sun and Mars are going to combust, okay? It's not a Cazimi. I think there is the difference, Ksenia Moore explains it better. I think it is the difference between the vicinity. Okay, so basically Mars has too much heat. It is a conjunction, but it is combust. Okay, it's not Cazimi that is kind of like a sweet upgrade that is very potent. And I know a lot of people were planning for making Mars talismans on that day because it's like, oh, it's the Mars Cazimi. No, it's still combustion, and combustion is actually not benefic. Again, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work out for you. Talismanic are also petitions, they're energy, and not just election, but just so you know. And the last time, and I think the Lada Duncheva, I think, said that, the last time Mars conjuncted the Sun in Scorpio was in 1991. Okay, for me, I remember this as the Gulf War. So I was 6 years old, yes, at the Gulf War. And funnily enough, Iraq said that it wants. I don't remember who it wanted to attack or why would it want to pop its head. But I'm sure it's not Iraq. It's something operating beneath that. So yeah, isn't that funny? I don't know. I know that Scorpio is the Middle East. I know it's a war, and there's the solar peaks that Krasi is talking about that make it even more difficult. But at such lovely times, sozusagen, it's a great time to talk about Procyon again. Okay, and twice I have some kittens in my house, in my living room, and I have my moon altar in my living room. And every time my parent comes, then it's very lovely because my parent is moon, and they have moon in Virgo, which for me is 7th house. So something happens with the altar. One time my parent cleaned the moon altar. So yesterday they were playing, and there was the note I have of Procyon. It was on the floor. And I was thinking to talk about Procyon today. It's almost reminding me, and the puppies were playing with an elephant puppet, a tiny elephant puppet. And then I saw the note of Procyon again on the floor. I picked it up and put it on abundance next to my moon altar. And so I knew I must speak about Procyon. And I had all kinds of thoughts and understandings and realizations regarding Procyon, especially yesterday when I addressed it. And I was like, well, United States have Mercury retrograde a degree away from Procyon, and they dropped the 2 nuke bombs, which is actually bad for the country. But then they had JFK, and I was like, I need to understand what is going on with this. So, ruler of the day is Mars, which is also ruling Rahu and is also ruling Aries, and is also associated with the outer planet Pluto. So this is the place to honor Mars. And Mars is now at home in Scorpio, 17 degrees, about to oppose Uranus. So honoring Mars as assertion, as enforcing what is right, okay? As enforcing what is right, as assertion, as the wisdom of transformation, on all levels, as drive and passion, and getting to the core of something, okay? So looking into the core of something to understand what is right and enforcing and acting as to what is right. Mars is the way we move in the world, it's the move we make in the world. So honoring Mars today, honoring Aries in Aries, which is representation for that which has been misrepresented. And Aries is now on Andromeda, which is great place for Andromeda. Then it's honoring and asking for protection from whether it's torture or harm, and torture and kidnapping, basically. This is what the story of Andromeda, so asking for protection, as well as asking to reconcile that which seemed irreconcilable. Okay, those that have been misrepresented, isolated so much so in society that they have existential gap between the common people. So to reconcile those that Aries protects into society in peaceful ways and protect us from kidnapping, from organized crime, from torture, from all these things, and to achieve what Aries desires to achieve, that is basically to be a part of society in ways that are through reconciliation. And that already leads us into Procyon, which Procyon is most known for protection, sweetening, reconciliation, reconciling, and basically taking the sting out of the attack by understanding what is the core reason that we've been attacked and how we're changing that within our own selves or societies or nation, because it's in Cancer tropically, so much so that we sweeten the approach of our enemies to us. Procyon is also, the way I see it, is where we have been, is showing us where we have been cannibalistic in our self-protection. It's where we are looking for to protect ourselves, which is not a bad thing, but in doing so we became cannibalistic, okay? Cancer, the animal cancer, is cannibalistic. It can, a cancer can eat other cancers. And so the female cancer basically allures the male to make love to her, and so he becomes very protective of her as he sees her as part of himself. But with Procyons, the fixed star in the sign of Cancer, it is able to show us where we have been cannibalistic, and therefore we are being susceptible to attack from the outside, because we try to protect ourselves so much so that is degrading us. One great example is Nelson Mandela, who had Sun on Procyon at 25 degrees Cancer. And look at the vertex. Vertex is now 20 degrees. It will be reaching, yes, it will be reaching 25 degrees probably as we will speak. Yes, look, it is about to reach, vertex is about to reach Procyon. So if you are watching right now, you might want to look up and see what happens or what comes up in the conversation when it reaches. So Nelson Mandela had his Sun on Procyon, and he was basically acting out the procyonic features by removing blood segregation from positions of authority and marriages in African society. Okay, there was blood segregation. Only one blood and one tribe could be king, and he was from the family, but he was not allowed to inherit the throne. And people were not allowed to marry different bloodlines, that is, different tribes. Tribes were bloodlines, okay? So there were basically blood segregation going on within African tribes, and he was against this. But not only that, when the whites came, he was studying in their schools. So whatever they had to say that was useful, not unlike the Babylonians, okay, not to the whites or the Babylonians, he was like the Babylonians, because not unlike the Babylonians, if they said something useful, he took it. But when it came to blood segregation, he removed it from the inside. He stood up to the king and he married a woman from another tribe. And what happened is that blood segregation from within Africa began to abolish. Okay, you could be democratically chosen to be leader, I think, after Mandela. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you could marry a woman from another tribe. You broke a taboo. Okay, it was the first case of somebody that's doing that. And so blood segregation from whites became obsolete and apartheid was removed. Okay, but he made the changes from inside. He had sun, and sun is blood segregation with leadership. Okay, or something that needs to change in the leadership. So basically, Cancer is the sign of the people, and so it's both the leadership needs to care for the people, but also the people need to be able to be leaders. And with Sun on Procyon, it means the people need to be able to be leaders, and when they are leaders, then we basically decentralized the regime in this way. But it was not from decentralization, it's more about the connection between the people and the regime. And then he protected Africa from apartheid. He removed apartheid eventually. But he removed it with everything that was on the timeline of apartheid from within. Okay? Very, very, and he was an eclipse child. You can see the astrology. I think it was Nick Dagan-Best that mentioned that he was an eclipse child. So it was very, very fated for humanity. All his life was fated around eclipses, and Sun, Moon, of course, Sun in Cancer. But if you are born next to eclipses, is making your life very, very fated. So yes, and now I want to do a study life with you, because there is the chart of JFK. So let's look again at the chart of JFK, but also look at the story of the Cuba missile crisis before we looked even at the United States. So John F. Kennedy, natal chart. So let's just a glimpse at the natal chart. And we're going to go into the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is incredibly relevant. Oh, just today I discovered that there was a nuclear ship, a nuclear submarine. I don't know. For me, submarine is like, we all live in a submarine. So there's a nuclear one, and it was crossing the Nile from Suez. Was it arriving Suez or something like this? So it's kind of between Gaza, Israel, Egypt. So we have nuclear stuff from the United States greeting us, and somebody was saying stuff about nuclear. And I addressed what is nuclear energy? What is nuclear bomb? What are the implications? And today in the morning, I addressed something on Twitter that I will later address. I think right now we are hitting, sorry, I have to check this. Let's see the current planets. Where is vertex now? 22. Oh, we are heading the lethality of this, and we're also talking about JFK. So JFK, look, he has a midheaven on 23 degrees Cancer, just 2 degrees from Procyon, and the Saturn on 27 degrees Cancer. Okay, Procyon is 25 degrees Cancer. Let's take a look at the fixed stars. Yeah. I want to see the fixed stars. Natal chart. No, I will have only the asteroids here. But maybe not graphics. Okay, whatever. So, his Gemini Sun. Yes, and Moon also ruled by Mercury. Mercury in Taurus. But particularly, we have the situation where Procyon is engulfed by his midheaven and Saturn, what he's most known by, other than Marilyn Monroe and the Masons, and the CIA and the FBI, is the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I want to go directly to this. So Cuba Missile Crisis. If anybody of you learned more than voting patterns in politics and governance or political science, which is a very funny term, in university, then you probably have learned about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I know that I was probably supposed to teach it. I was Me Too veteran, so there are things I don't remember from there. It was big trauma. And now I have to look at it again. So Cuban Missile Crisis, also known as October Crisis, it says 1962. Okay, Crisis de October in Cuba. Missiles, okay, fine. 13-day confrontation between United States and Soviet Union when American deployments of nuclear missiles in Italy and Turkey were matched by Soviet deployments of nuclear missiles in Cuba. Okay, so the Russians put nukes in Cuba, facing the United States. The United States had some nukes in Italy and Turkey. Now, just so that we will look at the Earth globe, world map. Yeah. I don't know if we have it on astrocartography, but before we do astrocartography, let's just take a look at the world map image so that you will understand the crisis. Okay? So, yeah. Oh, thank you. So the big light brown one is Russia, if you can see it. The Turkey is, except for Georgia, is bordering Russia. Yes, Italy is a bit farther away, but Turkey is already nearly bordering with Russia. So if you wanted to send a nuclear bomb from Italy or Turkey to, let's say, Moscow, it's possible. You don't have to travel that much. And Cuba. Cuba is a small island here, relatively small, probably bigger than Israel. Cuba. And if you say here, so if you wanted to strike from Cuba, basically I have to tell you, the eclipse cycle is going to be in the United States. One is going to grow across like from Oregon to Texas, but the other one is going to go from Canada, from the East Coast to the South Coast. And this is exactly the East Coast thing is exactly the place where if missiles were in Cuba, they could strike any one of these points very, very easily. Okay? They're probably not directed to Miami. Okay, you have too many storms there. You really don't need to do the job with the nuke. So they could drop on New York, on JFK probably, is probably what we targeted. Yeah. So this is what they could do from Cuba. And you could take down Moscow. Or I think even St. Petersburg, but I'm not sure. Okay, from Turkey, Moscow, probably also from Italy. So you understand why was was a big issue. Okay, and you also understand that a city like Gaza, it doesn't mean anything to anybody to throw a nuke on it. A city like Tel Aviv, a city like Jerusalem, perhaps. So, yes. The crisis lasted from October 16 to October 28, 1962. I thought it was 63. The confrontation is widely considered the closest the Cold War came to escalate into full-scale nuclear war. Now, the term Cold War is misleading, okay? I don't think anybody in Syria will tell you they are having a Cold War, but this is an ongoing Cold War between Russia and United States, and perhaps even China. So this is just saying Cold War is just mean the P5 are not fighting each other directly. P5 of the Security Council is the winners of after the World War. It is Russia, China, France, United States, and what was Great Britain. Okay, so now you understand that these 5 countries are basically having each a veto in the Security Council, which is the only place in the UN that can enforce invasion, okay, boots on ground, and all types of invasion, military invasion, right, even boots on ground, supposedly for the security of the world, okay? So it won't happen in China, it won't happen in Russia, it won't happen in the US, it won't happen in Great Britain, and it won't happen, what do you say? France? Yes. So these 5 won't happen. Okay, so you won't see the Security Council invading China for any reason whatsoever. It has the pros and cons. But this is the structure of the UN, which is the closest to a global government that we have. And that's important to know. So this is a Soviet medium-range ballistic missile in Red Square, Moscow. Okay, so they were showcasing, and CIA was referring this. And so what do you do if you cannot fight directly? It's not if you cannot fight, it's not that you want to. You fight by proxy. As most of the wars that we see are by proxy. Okay, Israel is not fighting Palestine because there is no Israel and there is no Palestine. Okay, the foundation of the Israel is a couple of organizations. Okay, it's corporations. So we have the electricity corporation, the water corporation, the this corporation, the that corporation. We have a flag. None of this corporation is managed by Israel. Okay, it's funded by the world, different countries. Okay, but there is no such thing as Israel. There's a flag. It's also important to understand Israel is not fighting Palestine because Israel does not exist. There is a flag. It's important. Yes. Does it make me feel calmer in the world as a person who is secular in any way, shape, and form? But just to the people who want to put you in one category, then they will say, "Oh, you're Jewish, you this, you that." I'm like, okay, my grandfather was Jewish. He was Holocaust survivor. What can I do? But you see, it doesn't make you feel calmer. But we also see that in stuff like the 7th of October, we actually see that we don't have a state. Okay, and therefore the world conflicts that we see are basically by proxy. Okay, they're fighting each other by proxy. During the Ukraine-Russia war, I was trying to see maybe I would learn driving license. So I wanted to look at cars, to manifest the car and so on and so forth. And I was looking at cars and I liked cars. So I was asking questions and so on. Apparently Geely and Volvo and I think Mitsubishi, I'm not sure which is like the, yes, is Volvo for sure is owned by Geely, which is owned by China. Okay. American Comfort, the armchair, because I wanted to have this massage chair, so I was trying it. And when I was homeless, this was helping me because I needed to do something that I sat there and I would calm down like this. And I noticed that the massage I'm getting is like Chinese medicine. And I looked and I see it's made in China. American Comfort is made in China. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I will address this very soon. I believe that this was the one. Sorry, I have to check. Your broadcaster is neurodivergent. We are 1 degree from Procyon. American Comfort is made in China. We are 1 degree from Procyon with Vertex. Yes. So, so why am I saying this? Because if you go to Volvo, and of course, when you manifest, you can do anything. Then I went to Volvo and I said, if I wanted to buy this car today, and the person told me you will only get it maybe a year from now. I say, why? So he said, Ukraine, it manufactures the electric, the strings there. You have the battery and the strings. This is made in Ukraine. So they make it for China. And so when there is war in Ukraine, no cars. So I said, oh my God, I cannot buy a Volvo. What can I do? So this is how you have a war by proxy. Okay, how can you fight China? Well, you take down Volvo. You freeze an industry of cars, of electric cars, and all the world wanted to eliminate all cars that are not electric. Okay, by the way, for Geely, perhaps a very good car, very efficient car, but it doesn't go through, at least what's sold in Israel, doesn't go through the test where you crush it to make sure that it sustains. It doesn't go through this test. It doesn't mean that it can't go through this test, but it didn't actually go through this test. Okay, that is what I was told by a person in Volvo, which is owned by Geely. And so this is how you get these by proxy wars. Okay, it's not that United States is, that Russia is combating China, but it's combating where the cars are made, which is an entire industry that China is very well known for, and there's like this whole, we are going to have only electric cars. You understand how big it is globally. Okay? And now back to Cuba. So, conflict resolved diplomatically, publicized removal of social nuclear missiles from Cuba, non-publicized removal of American nuclear missiles from Turkey and Italy. Okay, so basically they said we're going to denucleify the region. Okay, this is a historical precedence for denucleification in praxis. Okay, when we think about success stories, when we think about denucleification, we say, surely there will never be denucleification, world balance and Kissinger and no. Okay, beseder, fine. But here is a case where we had a concrete event of denucleification by Russia and United States. Okay, they put nuclear missiles, they took away nuclear missiles. And agreement with the Soviet Union and the United States would never invade Cuba without direct provocation. I don't understand what it says, but it says probably nothing. Creation of nuclear hotline between United States and Soviet Union. I don't understand what is nuclear hotline, but is nuclear hub, I don't know. Wait, later. So, Moscow-Washington hotline, formerly known as the U.S. In the U.S. as Washington-Moscow Direct Communication Link. Okay, this was establishing communication. Communication is Mercury. The person who was helping is known, that was president right then, was John F. Kennedy. It was Sun in Mercury, Sun in Gemini. So establishing communication and denucleification. This is directly taking me to the Sibley chart, but I will hold myself a little bit. Is a system that allows direct communication between leaders of the United States and Russian Federation, formerly the Soviet Union. The hotline was established between 1963 and links the Pentagon with the Kremlin. Historically, with the Soviet Communist Party leadership across the square from the Kremlin itself. Okay, it's the red telephone. The hotline was never a telephone line and no red telephones were used. The implementation used teletype equipment that shifted from fax machines in 1986 and shifted to fax machines in 1986. Since 2008, the Moscow-Washington hotline has been a secure computer link over, I'm thinking it's Northern, but I don't know, which messages are exchanged by a secure form of email. So basically, they established connection, a direct hotline, and by having a connection, they denucleified the region. Okay. So now that you understand, and this is still on. So now that you understand, when Russia attacks Ukraine and China cannot provide cars, electric cars, Volvos, but also Geelys, and Geelys is more close to common car. You may not buy have the money to buy a Volvo, but you could afford perhaps a Geely. And Geelys were also on hold. So you understand that when Russia attacks Ukraine, and you say, oh, but United States is in favor of Ukraine. They send money, they send this, they send that, they send that, they send that. Yes, but the more prolonged the war is, the more it holds back on industry by China, that US is kind of having a little bit of beef with. And so they have less of a beef with Putin and more of a beef with China by this delineation. Okay, there always is like chart, like astrological chart. They always have a couple of yogas, a couple of it's like a neural network. Okay, there are a couple of things lit at the same time. So this is one of them. This is one neural network. Okay, because if we have war in Ukraine, when we support Ukraine, we have more war. Yes, but China is having a bit of financial slowdown. And what do they want to do? They want to do, I think, railways through the Middle East all the way to China by United States. Okay, it's not Biden, it's United States. So if China and China wants to eliminate United States by creating the BRICS, and so it's not eliminate United States, it's also playing a counterbalance to Russia. So we have a little bit of a dissolution. It's always been difficult with the P5, but we really are having kind of attempts to rechange the world order, and this will eventually express itself in the Security Council, in the UN, let alone The Hague and the International Court of Justice. Woo! Okay. So this was the hotline. Okay. Do we get more about this? Jupiter nuclear missiles. Okay. 1961, US government put Jupiter nuclear missiles in Italy and Turkey and trained. Okay, now they have basically they have a nuclear ship in around Egypt. Okay, so you see, Israel and Palestine is not even the point. It's Suez. It's Egypt. Why was Israel helped in when was it, 54, 50? I don't remember. One of the many wars we had. It was helped by the entire West to take over Suez. Okay, did they care about Israel? No, they care about Suez. Okay, so now they are beginning to fumble with Egypt. And whenever there would be a little bit of an operation, missiles and so, between supposedly Palestine and Israel, then Egypt would come and say, no, you have ceasefire, and you have this. Now you see a whole month no ceasefire because US is putting nukes in Egypt. And Israel and Palestine go fighting each other, and there's multiple genocides. But there's nukes coming to Egypt. So we need to look at Egypt as well. It had also trained a preliminary force of Cuban exiles, which CIA led in an attempt to invade Cuba and overthrow its government. Okay, Cuba is very close to the United States. We understand why the United States will feel threatened and would rather have Americans ruling Cuba than anything else. If we go a little bit to the world map, then you see geographically. I might make another episode about our region that you'll understand something. And you see, if it's geographically very near and bordering the United States, and it's a small island, if you get an inner person to rule this place, then you're less susceptible to be attacked in your DC, in your JFK airport, in your big cities, in Howard, it's also true, Chicago. So you understand why they wanted to take Cuba. It's not to take down Cuba, but to make sure that they rule Cuba and not somebody else. No, somebody was threatening to the United States. Starting in November of that year, the US government engaged in a violent campaign of terrorism and sabotage in Cuba, referred to as the Cuban Project. Okay, terrorism and sabotage is something that we will address when we address also Israel, which continued throughout the first half of the 1960s. Soviet administration was concerned with the Cuban drift towards China. I think that we got the Procyon. I think that we got vertex on Procyon. Crossed. What was I talking about when vertex was on Procyon? Just a minute ago, it was not China. It was saying something about Israel, but it's 19 minutes, so it was just a couple of minutes ago. The Cuba. I was talking about Cuba. You see? That's exact. The geographical thing and the interference with another regime. This is important. Very important. Okay. The geographical importance to peace. That was what I was talking about. I said I will talk about Israel. That's the thing. And you know why I wanted to catch that? Because with Procyon, what I mentioned there, if we tend to this, we can denucleify the region. So, Soviet administration was concerned about Cuban drift towards China, which the Soviets had increasingly fractious relationship with, and still today. In response to these factors, now I understand something. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you this. Israel, it's a neurodivergent episode. You will have to bear with me, but I'm doing this live with you. I might have something more organized later, or you will have to do it yourself. Yes, natal chart. Yeah, I want to show you the Procyon one. Now you're showing me Palestine horoscope. Now you show me. When I'm looking for it, I don't find. Okay. Well, we will do it with Astrothings. Okay. The midheaven, it shows midheaven for Israel is in 25 degrees Cancer. It's exactly. This shows the ascendant on 23 degrees Libra. Some show it as 0 degrees Scorpio, but I think it's Libra. Okay. Our moon is in Leo, and our sun is in Taurus. Taurus in the 8th house, Leo in the 11th house. Yes. I was talking about the geographical importance. Israel. Midheaven, Israel. Midheaven on Procyon, we were founded in terms of the world. What's the raison d'etre of the world? It's like we didn't just get a state because of Holocaust, and the Holocaust survivors are still starving, and they did not get money. Okay, my grandfather was lucky because he managed to do some money himself, but he did not get money from Germany or anything like that. And yes, the people are still starving from the Holocaust. Okay, so it's not the Holocaust. Nobody cared for the people there, but and unfortunately, these people were studied psychologically, and unfortunately, to create some of what we've seen in 7th of October. Okay, I said it. I said it. So, it's prediction, it's hypothesis, yes, but very. The person who was exposed, they don't know what's energy. I said it. Okay, now, the raison d'etre for Israel is basically to denucleify the region or to keep a nuclear balance, to keep a nuclear war from happening. Yes, but if we want to nuke somebody, Israel is a problem. Because we have a denuclear country there. So midheaven on Procyon is kind of like having this person in the room that's like, can we all just get along? But if we did that, we didn't have to nuke anybody. And now I'm that person. I don't have anything natally on Procyon, but I just work with Procyon, petition Procyon. Okay, and it's like you want to start a war. You want to ahead for the moon in for the lunation, that upcoming lunation in Scorpio has like this Michael Jackson. So it's like, you want to be starting something. It's like you're in the room. Okay, everybody want to be starting something, and then there's this Procyon guy. It's like, but can't you see how we can denucleify the entire world if we do this and that and that? And they're like, everybody want to. It's like, shut up. We want to drop a nuke. We want to conquer this area. You're bothering us. And so Israel is that, it's like that thing that it was created so that nobody else nukes. But when you want to, why Kissinger said, Israel will not last so long. Okay, because Kissinger believed, and after you see what happened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so Kissinger believed that it can be a strategy that we can use nuke to solve conflict. And you know that when the solution is created, then somebody must create the problem. Usually, and I'm already having, the Illuminati thing is like the Jay-Z one, when they have this, immediately my hand went like this. Like this. Okay? It's like showing me that this was so. Okay, this was so. And here's the thing that Beyonce does, says my hand went like this. And this is true. Because if you already know that whatever conflict that you will solve with a nuke, with dropping bombs. Okay? Then how can you convince people that this is a good idea? Well, you make something like, you've seen the chart of Hamas. I'm not saying that they made it, but somebody elected these charts, okay? Then you make a guerrilla war so terrible that you have to respond to it, because you can't have people beheaded and raped in the cities like, this is, it's my problem. It's visible. Okay, you have to respond. And you say, okay, it's the problem is they're so terrible. The only way we can solve this is to nuke the place. Okay? But why would anybody they don't want to nuke Gaza. There's nothing with Gaza. No oil in Gaza. They want to nuke Tel Aviv, Jerusalem. Something with access to the sea, But they don't want the Palestinians, because I want to show you something. I don't know how do I even show it. Israel without Palestine region. Let's see. Israel. Let's do Israel 48 borders, because it's probably very similar, and you will see borders. Yes. This is 1948. Okay. Why did I get Asian accent? Somebody Asian involved in this. China is involved in this. I don't know if right now, why did I get Asian accent? So, this is the map for Israel. What you see is, it was with Sinai, now we don't have it. But now you see, I want to show you two things. One is Jerusalem. Jerusalem ist in Mittelpunkt der Welt. Hat sie Herrgott hingestellt. Okay, Jerusalem is Berlin. Is sitting in the border between Israel and Palestine. But it's not Israel and Palestine, it's Israel and Jordan. Tel Aviv, maybe 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, and because you probably don't know what kilometers are, then I will show you, let's say 50 kilometers. 50 into miles. This is 31 miles. It's 1/4 of what, if you are a common American, what you drive to work and back. 1/4 of this is the distance between Israel and Palestine, which is by proxy Jordan, which is by proxy Iraq, which is by proxy China, or whoever rules the place, Qatar. 31 miles. Now, tell me, can you win a battle from the air? Has somebody ever successfully won a battle from the air? Only with nukes. So if you're thinking the problem is they want to bomb Gaza, no, nobody cares about Gaza. Nobody cares about Gaza. This is why they are in ghetto. Nobody cares, because the world doesn't care. Which is horrid. But I also show you in this map why the 1948 division. And I want to show you another thing. Let's see, Syria borders. And this actually, this is actually that was shown to me by, I think, a person that later I would have conflict too with, okay, because he was doing his sexuality needs to improvement, but in this he was right. I want you to see the borders, just the borders of Syria. I want you to see these lines here, Syria, Jordan, okay? It is such a straight line. Iraq, this was British mandate. When the British mandate went away, even with Jordan here, it basically had residents, the ethnicities, okay? And we have this with Syria, we have this with Iraq, we have a majority of Syria. And so if you are not Sunni, in order not to be genocided, you have to rule a majority, which is what Bashar al-Assad did. How do you rule a majority? You have to oppress them. But if you don't do it, what will happen to the Alawites? What will happen to the Christians? What will happen to the Armenians? What will happen to the Babylonians? And to the Assyrians? What will happen to all the people that live there that are not Sunni Muslims? We see what happens. And when they flee, because they are not Irani, they are not Iraqi, they are not Muslim, they don't get shelter. Okay? Iraq, same story. And so when the British mandate wanted to divide the land without considering population, it had no problem to do it. But look at Israel. Israel, 48 borders. This is already mine, so that nobody would tell me, yeah, you're exposing me. I'm not exposing anybody. Okay? Where is the map that they show here? 48 borders. No, this is 45. Oh, they don't show me anything. 48 borders. This is better. That explains everything. Okay? So what you see here, you see Gaza Strip, doesn't bother anybody. Until the Hitnot, okay, until they took some people away. Gaza Strip is just a tiny place. Doesn't bother anybody. It's not a problem. West Bank is the problem. And Hamas, you say Hamas is in Gaza. But with what chart is interacting? With the chart of Palestine. What is the chart of Palestine? The chart of the Fatah, PLO. It's the same date, same chart, same natal chart. So you put Hamas on the PLO, you get Hamas controlling the entire Palestine, including West Bank, even though they're not physically there by astrology. The problems they make for everyone. Okay? And to liberate Palestine, you would have to kill Hamas. I showed it yesterday. So, what we have here, basically, if Jerusalem is an instance from being conquered, and Tel Aviv is 31 miles from being conquered, you don't even have to have a nuclear missile. Okay? Can you win a battle without boots on ground? Is there ever a record in history, Außer Hiroshima and Nagasaki, of major battles won without boots on ground? You have aircraft, you have bombs, you have this, you have Iron Dome, you have this, you have that. Okay? No. No. This means that you have to take geographical, it doesn't matter if you work from the air, it doesn't matter if you work from the sea. Okay, you go from the sea and from the land, that's it, you're in Tel Aviv. The center of commerce. If you make a tiny bit, just a couple of miles, you're in Haifa. Observe in Lebanon, observe in Syria. Okay, when they wanted to, and so if you cannot win a battle from the air, And this is something we know, really. You can correct me, you can give me examples, except for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Can you win a battle from the air? No. This is why Kissinger said, okay, he was not just an evil dictator. It was like, okay, if you want to win a battle from the air and not to have people beheaded and slaughtered and they need to be concentrated in one place so that they all evaporate, so you don't have the marches that you had with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which was horrid. And this is the most humane death. More humane than this guerrilla. So you concentrate them so that they are all in the margins, and then you drop hydrogen bomb or nuke bomb, and poof, they poof out. Okay, but the problem is that when we make the solution, we make the problem. It's inherent. It's problematic. And so if you cannot win a battle from the air, you have to have a division of land that allows people to protect the land. This does not allow to protect the land. And if you cannot win a battle from the air, you will have boots on ground. So the division of the land, it does matter. Okay? When I was in academia, I wanted to have a panel of people from security, generals. It's like, it's enough that I know that we cannot win a battle from the air. If we cannot, and we cannot unless we do nuke, and nuke is very problematic because you have the yes, you say, oh my God, Chile is a terrible ecological disaster. Look at Chernobyl. Chernobyl is blooming with animals, and it's not humans, but it's preservation. It's the green lung. Chernobyl now is the green lung of the earth. When we are destroying the entire earth, so the earth is the world is make no problem. It's energy leaks, and then you have an entire forest. Nobody can live there. You can't have a industry there. You can't have anything there. Anything that humans even remotely reach, you can't have there. So what you have a forest. Look at the documentaries of Chernobyl now, okay? It's saving humanity. It's insane. These are the thoughts that you have when you are within range of a nuke, okay? And we knew this. We had friends wondering where should you be and how many kilometers should you be if they drop a nuke from the center of the thing so that you are just poofing out, and it's most humane. Okay? So you must understand that Kissinger, it's not that he didn't have reason. And when you see the guerrilla wars of the kamikaze, when you hear the veterans that dropped the bomb, they were silenced for 50 years because what they have to tell is horrors, because they saw and they felt when they dropped the bombs. Okay, so you have planes without pilot. But when you see what the stories of the veterans that had to face the kamikaze, you hear stories, okay? And what you must understand is those guerrilla organizations, they don't just act like this with the enemy, which is worse enough, it's a war crime enough. Okay, they also act like this with their people because they want to rule. And if a person asks if they die by torture or die by a nuke where they are poofing out, of course they will refer to poof out as the most humane, if within range, the most humane death. It's just poofing out. It's even better than anything we know. In terms of if it's dying in war, it's great destruction. A lot of people dead. But when you consider the years, the war, a lot of people dead. So I'm not supporting nuke, I'm supporting denuclearification, but we have to understand what is nuke serving so that we can denucleify. Because it's not that we denucleify, we amplify something else. Okay, what did Mandela do? He removed the blood segregation from within Africa, and he made Africa more the Africa of the people, and the leaders of the people, for the people, by the people. Then apartheid became obsolete. Same with nuke. It's a Procyon. It's the same thing. And so Israel was created with this mid-heaven on Procyon. So Israel, as long as Israel exists, it's very difficult to nuke. Iran can have energy, this can have energy, that can have energy, and then you get into what is called the balance of powers. Yeah, but the problem with nuclear energy is that in the age of Pluto, sextile, Neptune, it tends to leak. Neptune is leakage, Pluto is nuclear energy. Okay, so this is a big problem. Even if you do it to light a city, it's still tending to leak. It's a very big problem. Hydrogen bombs, the same. I wanted to look for hydrogen-powered cars. Again, I spoke to a very kind person in Volvo. And he said, even the solar energy, you need to have a big roof. It's easier to power a caravan than to power a private car because you need to have a big roof. But also, when you transform this from solar energy to basically electricity, then the battery is highly inflammable. And so hydrogen is extremely inflammable. One mistake, one leakage like this is extremely inflammable. And this is one of the challenges that we deal with in terms of engineering to produce safe electric cars too, and safe hydrogen-powered cars. Okay, so great energy, but the pitfall is very inflammable. And so with nuclear energy, we understand what nuclear does for humans. A lot of mutation, susceptibility, neurological. That was so meta. Neurological damage, and like everything, to the tissues, to the fabric, cancer, of course. So it's a very big problem. Even when you want to power a city with nuclear energy. Okay, it's a very potent energy, but very leaky and very problematic. And so, yes. So there I showed you that, first of all, geographically, you cannot have this and have peace. Also in terms of the natal charts, but geographically, you cannot have this and have peace. But also, when Israel exists, okay, that's why Kissinger said Israel will not exist for long, because if Kissinger saw, and his realpolitik, saw that to solve a conflict, like you want to conquer some land, of course you're going to have resistance, and there are going to be a lot of conflicts, and you need them conflicts, because if you have a conflict with Ukraine and Russia, China cannot produce cars. And if China is becoming too big, because everybody allocated, because American comfort is made in China, so you want to diminish the power of Chinese economy. How do you do it with war? You cannot fight China. You do it with Ukraine. They produce the stuff for China. Okay, it's one thing, and again, I don't say that this is why it started, but it is something that is a neural network that is activated, that is operating in a certain way. That is what I am saying. Okay. Is one effect of the result of the actions that are happening. And if this effect serves something, even if it was randomly made, then we need to understand, what does it serve? This is the wisdom of Procyon. What does this thing serve? How do we get this thing in a sweeter way, rather than having, nukes and conflicts and stuff like that? Okay. So if we want denuclearification, we need to understand, what do A-bombs serve? They serve to solve the problem of imperialism. They serve to solve the problem of horrid death and ritualistic sacrifice of people. Those types of horrid guerrilla wars. And so we don't want a nuclear holocaust, and that's why we made a country with the mid-heaven on Procyon, which is Israel. This is why it's called the little devil. Okay, but when we do want to use nukes, like we used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and again, Gaza is not, you saw where Gaza was. It's not Gaza. Nobody is going to waste a nuke on Gaza. Okay. Maybe they want Cairo, because Israel also. Israel is nice, but Egypt is better. Geographically, you look at this, you say Israel is nice, okay. You have a sea, you have river to the sea, and you have everybody that wants to be free from the river to the sea, and everybody feels imprisoned. And then you have a vast land, okay. But when you have Suez, or now I'm seeing Suez, hopefully. What am I seeing there? No, I'm not seeing Suez here. Let's see where am I seeing Suez. So this is Egypt. Yes, and you see Suez. This little tiny. No, I want to show it better. Suez, Egypt. Okay. You see Eilat, where they put all the refugees in, by the way, is bordering the Red Sea. Okay, the Red Sea. Now, when you think about the countries, Israel, we have the Dead Sea, we have the Red Sea, we have this sea, we have that sea, okay? We have a lot of junctures, so it's good for a country. But when you think about an empire, while Jerusalem is nice and important to everybody, but when you think about Cairo, or you think about Egypt, then you basically are already getting into Africa. You're getting into the connection between oceans. What do you want, the pool or the ocean? Okay, they want the ocean. And so Egypt is a lot more interesting to anybody that wants to set foot on the Middle East than anything in the Middle East. So this is kind of, you see, what was this 1947 Arab state? They made us like the polka dots, okay? So it's very distinct. Now we say, but the population is the same. We look the same. Our religion's the same. Okay, the lessons that we need to liberate people, and rights and so on, the same. So it's just a tribal blood segregation. There's a eugenics. That's what it is. The racism. Stupid. But this is also what we need to change. Respecting women's rights. Everybody wants land, but how they treat women is the same element. So you will have dispute. As long as you mistreat your women, you will always have disputes on land. As long as you mistreat also women as mothers. Okay, if you take children from women, it doesn't matter. The nature doesn't care. Black woman, white woman, this tribe, that tribe, Yemenite, Ethiopian. It was like, this is a mother. Okay, instead of helping her to raise the children at home, so she gets, somebody helps her with cleaning, somebody helps with this, somebody helps with that. It takes a village to raise a child. You take the child will suffer atrocities, and you leave the mother without the child. And then you want land. You want you want agriculture. You want the land. Of course, you get a desert. Okay. But this diverting tactics, we have they fight them. It's not for them. They are looking for Egypt. Maybe Cairo. Because Cairo connects us already with the Suez Canal. And if you have control over the Suez Canal, which is why Israel was fighting over Sinai. Yes, we absolutely love the vacation there. I've never been there, but Israelis love it. This is why they wanted to evacuate Gaza to the Gazans to Mount Sinai. Okay, it's both stabbing Israel because Israel wants this, and Egypt that was always making the ceasefires. Okay, Egypt's like, no, we are going to fight for it. We're going to lose lives of our soldiers so that these people, nobody will be in Sinai. because this bothers with Suez. If you have a couple of, guerrilla wars there, which they have some ISIS there, then it makes problems for the passage through the Canal of Suez. It's trade through the sea. And this gets me back to the Sibley chart. As we get in, let's go to the Sibley chart, US Sibley chart. The US Sibley chart. And let's go from astrology, is still good. Okay, this Mercury retrograde is on 24 degrees Cancer. It's opposing Pluto. Okay. Mercury, now, what do I have around Procyon? Okay, for Israel, it's the midheaven. If you want to put nukes in the area, you have to exterminate Israel. But it's very problematic to exterminate Israel because we already have the midheaven on Procyon. So we have the capacity to denucleify the entire region. We have the capacity. Our moon is in Leo, and what rules Leo is the sun, and the sun is in Taurus on Algol. So for Israel, we need to both have the leaders from the people, much like Africa, by the way, and we are also called apartheid country. Okay, we need the leaders to be of the people. But also we need the people to lead, because Cancer is the people, and Moon in Leo is the people must lead. Okay, it's the republic of the people. We need to be more of a republic of the people. And we can't have a show, because Leo can have a show around. You can't have a show, it has to be essential. If you make it like the image, it's only the image. No. It has to actually be true. So, and the indirect is the the sun that's ruling Leo, that's ruling the 11th house, also ruling the army, is in 23 degrees Taurus, conjuncting Algol. Algol is the Medusa story, basically the beheading of women, rape of women, also men, unfortunately, psychic attacks, so ritual abuse. Okay, Algol as magic. Okay, when we partition her, she protects from these things. But in order for Israel to be protected, okay, to get the Procyon. If you think about Iron Dome, and I talked about it, is a Procyonic technique to protect people, because Iron Dome is exploding the missile in the air. And also Iron Dome, you can have a pregnant mother sitting there with a gun and operating things. Okay, she can do it. It's no problem. So it's a very much more equitable war technology that the objective is to basically explode the missile in the air so that it doesn't hit. It's kind of like to sweeten the harm. And this is why Iron Dome works. But to get more of the benefit of Procyon, we really need to eliminate the Algol stories we have in our country, by leaders, by the army, private sector, because unfortunately private sector is like a copy-paste of, and public sector is copy-paste of the army, and the army is not a good organizational model. Instead of the army to learn how to be a better organization, what is done is the private sector is learning from the army, which worldwide is like one department doesn't know for the other department. There's a lot of mess in this organization. Then you get the private sector to do the same. It's horrid. It's making very inefficient economy that works against the people instead of for the people. It's cannibalistic economy, basically. So and there you have atrocities against women, terrible atrocities by Israelis, of Israelis. I'm not even talking about the enemy. This is happening. And unfortunately, some Israelis men are known for that worldwide, although it happens abroad too. But the thing is that we have to address the Algol story and to heal and to abolish such behavior, such ritualistic abuse of women, of men as well in the army, because it's what they consider the feminine. Okay, some really crazy shit. When I first heard about it, I was like, did people actually believe that? But yes, people believe that if you are a conquered people, you are the feminine. I don't have words for that. Try to, sperm count. Try to have good sperm count when this is how you treat people and women, and this is how you think. It's very problematic. So, and it's causing problems with the heart. And a war trauma, horrid war trauma. So when Israel tends to that and abolishes that, as well as having a people governed, okay, but people governed with the care, okay, with the care, then. And we also have an issue with the tribal thingy, because cancer is a tribal thingy, and so Procyon comes to fix it. Okay, so we need a little Nelson Mandela there as well, because there's a lot of racism is trying to control who will give birth. Okay, it's like Ethiopian women are being given whatnot. It's like those things. Horse, like if we address that, then we get the protection of Procyon. We can literally remove the threat of nukes. And we are threatened from nukes from everywhere. Okay? So if we remove the threat of nukes, we denucleify the entire Earth. De Mittelpunkt der Welt hat sie ergot ingestellt. It's not just Berlin, it's also Jerusalem. Okay? So, but if we mistreat women, then they would prefer to die by nuke than to wed. Okay? If they are within the range, they prefer to puff out. Kissinger was Holocaust, it's not Holocaust survivor because he managed to escape before the Holocaust. And what was the realpolitik of Kissinger? We better use these nukes, these hydrogen bombs, we better use them. Because if you drop a nuke, 70 years later, you have a blooming city. You have a forest. But Chernobyl was not even 70 years ago. It was less than 40 years ago. I was still a baby when Chernobyl happened. Okay? You have a forest, and nobody can touch this forest. So now you preserve humanity by this. You need to understand. And Kissinger saw. But when you have these wars, you see 75 years Israel-Palestine. Atrocities, horrors, traumas for generations to come. 75 years, still no solution even. Okay? When Kissinger says, you drop bomb, 70 years, there's blooming city later. What will the people who go through these atrocities think? Let's poof out, return some as a tree, I don't know. It's very, very horrid. But it needs to be said, because to abolish these atrocities towards what we consider the feminine and the eugenics, who will have kids, who will not have kids, the control, all of those things, this is something that has the potency to denucleify the entire planet Earth. And if you have will and consent, and people can have land, and they don't have to pay for living in a place, they will not overpopulate. If they can plan pregnancy, they will not overpopulate. Because you have, what is the American dream? Okay, 2 children and a golden. Running in the yard. And you take another golden, of course, because you have to. You don't want them to be alone. And that's it. You go to the creek. You build your house with wood. You plant a forest. That's the American dream. It's real. It's a real. People are doing it. They're homesteaders. Homesteaders that are doing it. For some, it's too much, so you need a little bit of a city structure. But that's the American dream. This is what it is. I had an argument with a friend of mine that she's working at the pizza, and she fights psychiatry. Okay, she had problems with these people, and she used to have a business. So in Switzerland. So we were talking about job, and I told her, I don't want to say people growing their crops in the land, and why do you don't have to pay for the land that you live in, okay, for the water that you collect from the rain or from the well or whatnot. And she's like, you're taking me to the so many years ago. And I'm like, no, darling, I'm taking you to the future. This simple life, but also when we respect each other and we're inclusive of each other, which was the problem with the villages, because you had tradition, and then you either had the church or the mosque or whatever. And what was the tradition? This is what you did for as long as it worked, yes. But what if you had, a gay person, or you had a woman that she and her husband are not so sexually compatible. She wants to do something else. It's okay. And if we are inclusive towards the people, we'll not overpopulate, and we'll have a good life and have longevity too. And our food will be nutritious because it won't have fluoride everywhere. So a baby toothbrush, and it has the recommendation of how much fluoride you have to give the baby. I was like, the fuck am I looking at? This is toxic. Okay, it's the residue of when you make the nuclear bombs. All this began when I wanted to treat my teeth. So how do I treat my teeth better? I said, but why can't I be vegan? Because you don't get nutrients from the food. Maybe I'm supposed to also eat meat, maybe not, I don't know. But if I don't have access to food that was not grown with fluoride or with the water of the... Do you know what they water the crops in the Arava region? I know, I was homeless, and so I was running away from a house of somebody that had a friend that was selling weapon, okay? And they wanted to go for my passport. I was immediately, early in the morning, I took myself and ran away from there. And I walked for miles in the desert, so I was looking for water, and I had a little bottle with me that was finished. And I tried to fill it from the water that was watering the trees there, the crops, like. And I took a sip, and I was like, this is... I just drank from the plumbing where, it's like shit, no water. I kept on, and I was traveling until 4 miles until I found the bus. Unfortunately, I had a ticket for the bus, and I could go. I don't even remember where did I manage to get water, because I was without water for so long. That was the water to drink. Okay. My grandfather, when he ran away from the Holocaust, he drank probably his piss. But if you don't drink water, you don't have peace. So, and that was a Western girl living in Israel, not in Gaza, in Israel, in COVID. A friend that I share with the apartment became crazy a bit to me. I understood why he is crazy. I understood that I want to save my life. And I walked out and I said, okay, what can I do, until I found an apartment and so and so. And I tried to sleep here, to sleep there. That's how I got there. It's just that simple. It shouldn't be that easy to get that lost. Okay? For us as the community. Now we go back to the Sibley chart, because Mercury. What is Mercury? What we have with the... So for Israel, we had the leaders that need to be with the people, and then we had atrocities against what they consider the feminine, not just women, anything they put on the feminine on, which is everything eventually, okay, gets abused psychically as well. Okay, so ritual abuse. Israel needs to abolish that. We can have world peace if we do it. Now let's talk about the United States. The United States, what do they have with Procyon? Okay, so JFK had midheaven, much like Israel, and Saturn. So on the two sides of Procyon. So he changed the structure. He was Sun Gemini, so he changed the structure. But what do we see? What is Mercury? Is communication. So Mercury retrograde means there are problems with communication. How do problems with communication arise? Language. This is throat chakra and third eye. Throat chakra is what connected with what chakra? The second chakra. And in Cancer is very evident, it's the womb. But sexual abuse of children. I dropped the bomb. Okay, so what's the problem with children in the US? Okay, child labor. Who made this cell phone? I am holding a Galaxy A14. Lovely phone, very grateful that someone bought it to me because I will not be able to broadcast to you. Who made this phone? Very likely children in China. What working conditions do they have? You see this opposition to Pluto? And it's a Capricorn Pluto. Okay, they want to kill themselves, but they can't. And I'm using this to deliver the message. Child labor. If we allocate it to China, it doesn't help. Child labor. Also, child trafficking. Pedophilia against children. And this is done by the people. People think Epstein. Yes, also Epstein. But it's done both by the leaders, Sun in Cancer, but also by the people. Moon ruled. Okay, where's the moon? Third house. Sibling, domestic. Aquarius, the people, masses. Problem with child trade, child labor. Unfair trade. Mercury, trade. Use of words. Okay. Regime uses words to control the people psychologically. Pluto. Psychological abuse. Also called abuse. So this is a very big problem because when we want to get the protection of Procyon that can denucleify, okay, how did Kennedy do it? Establish communication with Russia. Direct communication. Yes, Mercury, Pluto, hidden. This can also, Mercury in the 8th house can also be surveillance, and we know that the United States is big on that. Not only nation is big on that, but it's a part of the issue. So communication and the way children are treated. Fair trade is very important, okay? This hustle culture is killing the nation. Mercury is squaring Saturn here, which is the ruler of Pluto, Saturn in Libra. So Saturn in Libra is like, oh, it's exalted Saturn, but it just means that the rules to oppress children are legal. It's just becoming legal. Also, problem with the juristic system and the structure of the juristic system. This we know. The people in the Supreme Court are not elected. Okay, so it's an algorithmic problem, but it needs to be addressed. In Israel, we also had problem with the Supreme Court, both internally and externally. Okay, so this problem with the Supreme Court, although Saturn is exalted in Libra, if it is in contradiction here with the children of the nation, this is what it means. And those are the things that need to be addressed. Okay, trade. You think about the 9/11, what was hurt in America, the big symbol, the Twin Towers. It doesn't matter who did that. Okay, because there are many things to look up, and yeah, it touched different people in different, some of them had relatives there, but what is knocking down the symbol of trade in the United States, if not a huge omen that has connotations of how is trade doing? Is trade fair? Is trade fair? And child labor, if the what is trade center? You have stocks, okay? The stocks are of companies. If these companies in general are hiring children in horrid conditions, then this is a tickling bomb. Very big problem. And Mercury is the 7th house, so it's both partners and open enemies. Okay, there's fights there, partners and open enemies. And the revolutions are around fair trade, whether it was slavery, whether it was the unions, the union labor, the blue, stuff. 1st of May was the blue revolution. Okay. The independence war, what was it? Because the the Americans had to pay tax to Britain. They couldn't anymore with this debt. Okay. So fair trade is something United States must tackle. Child labor, fair trade. Unfortunately, child marriages, because Saturn also rules wedding, and Saturn in Libra is marriage. And so the solution is divorces. Because if the child is married, you must divorce, and you have high divorce rates. And this is, if Israel, the problem is the occult abuse of what they call the feminine, this whole yucky thing. Here is about trade, labor. Okay, to make a life while making a living, easy. Economy, there is no economy without people. Okay, so we of course see that with the United States. Yes, it supposedly abolished slavery, but how can we say with what's happening with children, with child labor, with child trafficking, how can we say we abolished slavery? Okay, it's not just the color of the skin. I'm called to talk about Beyonce, because Beyonce, she has like a stellium in Libra and the sun in Virgo. So it's very much a lot is very known in the United States and in the world. And before she had Blue Ivy, she was working so damn hard that she could not conceive and give birth to a baby. She had an abortion, an undesired abortion. She took a whole year off and traveled the world. And then she had Blue Ivy. And a lot of people say what they can say, somebody else, somebody this, somebody that. We had a child, okay? Blue Ivy, we see her, okay? She looks very much like Jay-Z and Beyonce. Whatever it was. But Beyonce had to take a year off for Blue Ivy, whichever way, I'm not getting into this, it's their business, to come to the world. Okay, this was a famous story, and unfortunately, when we talk about fertility and the desire to have a child, when you do want to have a child, okay, you can't hustle yourself so much, because it's like you're bringing a child to a concentration camp. And it's not only true to the women, it's also true to sperm count, to the men. Okay, Jupiter in Cancer is great, it's very exalted. The square with Saturn is problematic, yes. But what we need to do is, if you want fertility, if you want children, then we need to treat children well. Everything that is ruled by children, so it's children, it's agreements, it's trade, it is mercurial, okay? Mercury, yes, it is word, and the United States is big on words and talk correctly and talk this and talk that. It has its pros and cons. It also has its pros, okay? It's not just a terrible thing. And minding the language and so on and so, yes, but also mind that there will not be pedophilia. Okay, so when US has that, then it is less susceptible to nuclear attack or attack like on the trade centers. Okay, it's like this big symbolic attack, and the myth of trade. Okay, the myth, you see Neptune here in Virgo. I don't have the chart for the 9/11, I don't know, yes, but you understand it is a symbol of trade. And it was whoever did that wanted to have the picture, the visibility of a great symbol in the United States that is trade center, a mythical center for trade, okay, to knock it down. Something of this symbolic is bound to happen. It's very likely that the nuclear missiles in Cuba were also directed to something like trade centers or something like this, okay? Because this is what the United States is susceptible of. Mercury is next to Procyon. If we don't treat children well, the entire, everything that symbolizes America is up to be nuked. Now, in this eclipse cycle, we must remember that. Another thing is with Cancer, the ruler of the fourth here in the age. So the ruler of the fourth is Pisces, and Pisces is about the home, housing, motherland. Okay. Ruler of the fourth in the eighth, there is a trauma to do with housing. It's not new. Okay. But Jupiter is about compassion. And Jupiter in Cancer, people tend to be compassionate only to their tribe. Be compassionate to everyone, okay? Because Pisces is a housing for everyone. It's like the ocean. The ocean contains everything, and the United States is vast like the ocean. Okay, it has land, and its borders will never be clear. It needs to deal with things with compassion towards homes. So it needs to have, how should I say it? In order to generate the generational wealth and good partnerships, especially of the hidden kind. First of all, you must be compassionate to spies, and this is a very big problem because Pisces rules spies. Jupiter is 8th house. That thing that happened with Julian Assange, okay, very bad for the United States. Edward Snowden sitting pretty in Russia, very bad for the United States, because your spies are from the home. You must contain them and you must be compassionate to them. Okay, Pisces, it rules spies, but it also rules compassion. And these spies, you have to treat them compassionately. And in Cancer, 8th house, okay, there's a problem with you exile them. You take the nationality away, but also take the housing away. You say, but we don't want to be. It is nothing. What did you establish in Russia? A direct communication line with Russia. Establish direct communication. You have the potential to do it. If you treat children well, it means that you can directly connect with other nations and with other people, okay? Peoples. And you don't need to care so much about spying. Because if you have direct communication, you don't have to go in the roundabout way. And then Jupiter Pisces has become generational wealth of houses. But if it is inclusive, then you won't have invasion. If you have a trauma of invasion. Oh, because Pearl Harbor. Yeah. If you're like isolated, surrounded by ocean, but you have a trauma of invasion. Also, you invaded. That's how you founded it, you know. That's how it was founded. First of all, we be very compassionate to the communities, indigenous communities, because, you know, so the trauma of invasion is overcome by inclusivity and by establishing direct communication and fair trade. Because why would anybody invade you? Who invades you? The people that you invade. Is 8th house, is projection. That is what I see. And invasion here is from faraway lands. You love to travel too. Israelis also love to travel. Not only for the ascendant, but also it's like the homeland. People love to travel, but also to dangerous places and to see overseas. Also, you are a country that's always like to be surrounded by oceans because it is Pisces, 4th house. It's the people, but it's also the motherland. Okay, so you are surrounded by oceans, but not isolated at all. And so with anything, Cancer, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, but it's very important to care. You see, if you were born as immigrants, you must treat immigrants well because you are immigrants. And you must treat native well because you are native, okay? You're both natives and immigrants. And if you are natives and immigrants, it's very Pisces, then you must treat natives and immigrants well. If you establish direct line of communication and we stop with this creating conflict and nuking people and solve this by direct communication in fair trade, then you're not going to be worried about invasion. Why would anybody invade you? And you're not going to be concerned about spies because you have direct communication. Mercury, Pluto aspects, they always have to put something in the light. If they hide something, it leaks. It links with the sextile to Neptune. It links, but here is no sextile to Neptune. It's trine to Neptune. Also links. Also links. Okay, you can't really hide anything. You have to have very authentic communication, open communication, and you're able to do so. Look at the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, you've established a direct hotline to the Kremlin. It's happened. It's still on. But must be fair trade. It's a national interest. Your national interest, if you want something national, your national interest is fair trade, well treat of children, wherever you trade, children must be treated well. It's a national interest. But you get the protection from Procyon. You won't be invaded, you won't be nuked. That's and if you tend to it from within, then you make oppression towards you obsolete. Okay, like Mandela and the apartheid. It's obsolete to attack the trade center, whether from within or from outside, when the trade is fair. If all trade on the land of America is fair, and America loves to trade, Jupiter, the ruler of the fourth and the eighth, love to trade with other nations, if that trade must be fair, invasion is obsolete, nuking is obsolete, immigration is obsolete. People will come to travel in America because they want to see, and if the trade is fair, that people have the time and the money to travel to America. Why not? So it's a national interest. Procyon is smart because Cancer is the people, it's the nation, it's the motherland. Okay, Procyon is a fixed star in tropical Cancer. You want to have a nation, you want to have people, you want to have a motherland. Stop being cannibalistic to yourselves, and you get the protection of Procyon. It's very smart. Very, very smart. And what is direct communication? You don't need surveillance when you have direct communication. Pluto, Mercury is going to cause crisis after crisis after crisis until you get direct communication. Until you speak about what's inside, what your worries, what your fears are. Okay? When you talk about this, then you resolve it. So, yes, I'm not saying it's the easiest to grow average. I'm almost 2 hours here, and I did, only 2 charts of countries. But you see how Procyon plays. Even when we get an election with something on Procyon that is desired in the chart of a nation, then we need to treat that. We need to feed that Procyon. We need to treat that Procyon well. And when we do, we get more and more abundance, more and more flourishing. We look within. Procyon, it's like look within. Do the job, look within. When you change what's needed to change within, that which comes to oppress you from the outside will be obsolete. You will remove it. It will fall from you, like shedding leaves. So, and I invite each and every person to look at the moon in their chart, because Procyon is ruled by the moon, tropical Cancer. And where the moon is in our chart is where, when we change that, where we tend to our moon, though we're on a Mars day, then we meet the world with a glass full, more so than empty, and the world looks different because the moon also rules the eyes, and it's a process. It's not the entire story of shielding yourself. There is Algol, there is Andromeda, reconciliation, there is a 22nd lunar measure, there's Antares. Recently, Christopher Warnock made Antares talismans that are just fabulous, fabulous energy. So you can go to renaissanceastrology.com And there are many protectors. But for Procyon, this is something that is very much associated with this nuke thingy, or these types of attacks that are on the core of the nation. Okay, and so with Procyon, we want to heal the connection to our mother, to our motherland, to our caregiver within. And there are many ways to do that. Okay, sometimes it's good for you to, if you're, let's say your parents are abusive, okay, it's good for you to be apart. Okay, but also when people are looking at themselves, it's like, how am I nurturing, growing my inner child better than my parents? Okay, because they didn't know how to do it well. How do I do it better? Then this is another way to do it. Okay, it's not about making peace with what you currently can't make peace with. So there are many ways to tend to that, and petitioning Procyon perhaps can be a time to do that, and it's both on a personal level, and on a societal level, and when we have nations, and on a national level and international level. Okay, the clarity of the sea, okay, is not just Pisces, but it's also Cancer. It's the element of water, fertility, conception, traveling, and so on. Also real estate, by the way, so housing, very important. Yeah, but also fair trade. For here is fair trade and housing. For Israel is housing, leaders, and willing consent. Willing consent is very strong in Israel. That willing consent and ethical use of energy, not to gaslight, not to victim blame. That's probably showing up for the United States too, but here is specifically the children, the fair trade. So yes, from Israel it's more from the mothers, that the children are kidnapped from the mothers. Here's like the children, how a bit treated. So I'll see you in my next episode. Thank you for listening, and may we all have the blessings of Procyon and tend to what we need to tend to, and receive the protection, and make threat to us obsolete.